New Landing's Job Chat is brought to you in part by the Prosperity Advisory Group, the next step in your financial future.
We all need to build rapport with others in our lives. How easy is it to do that, or how hard? That is the subject of today's Job Chat. I'm Hector Silva, along with Don Appel.
Rapport. It's quite a broad subject, but we're going to delve into it today and get some answers.
And here to help us with those answers is our guest, Brad Justice.
Brad Justice is president of Justice and Associates, a personal development company, and co-founder of Team Office, an office furniture company based in Kansas City, Missouri. Brad, welcome back to Job Chat.
Thank you for having me again. It's good to be here.
Good seeing you again, Brad. And let's start off by defining what is rapport.
Rapport is a feeling of comfort and trust between two people.
Comfort and trust. Mm-hmm. Two of the main factors in rapport.
Right, and let me add, if I may, Webster's defines it as a feeling of harmony between two people. I like the word harmony. I use comfort and trust as euphemisms because in sales, I think trust is such a huge factor. In fact, most sales trainers will agree it's the most important factor. So I prefer to use comfort and trust, but harmony is a good one too. I think if we can get in harmony with people, our odds of getting hired go up dramatically.
Are most of us good at rapport?
Great question.
Or building rapport specifically?
The us part of your question worries me. I travel the world, in my endeavors every day, and rapport is such a central theme in my life and my work for 29 years of direct selling, and rapport is basically everything. And so I almost have a informal PhD in rapport building. So I observe the world around me, and I often see people that are either oblivious or don't care about the importance of rapport. And I do see some people that are just magically gifted at it.
Is there a time limit associated with it? When you look at salesmen, they have a very short amount of time to gain that rapport with whoever they're working with. Mm-hmm. Or even if you're talking about an interview, there is just a short amount of time to gain that trust and that harmony with the person that's interviewing you. Mm-hmm. So how do you gain that rapport in that short a time, or is it that you start off with that time and then you try to build it further?
We do. You're right. It's a very short amount of time. In fact, there's a lot on the internet out there, some interesting articles about an NYU study revealed a few years ago that we actually have about 7 seconds to build rapport. That's the first 7 seconds that we meet someone. I think there are cases and scenarios where that's true. We do have about 7 or 8 seconds. In other cases, I'm not so sure. I think it depends on the personality and the scenario, the reason that we're meeting someone. But either way, you're right, we have a short amount of time to do that. One of the mistakes people can make is that we need to be employed, all of us. It's a very important part of our lives. And out of that need, when we've gone through a season or we're going through a season of unemployment, that intense desire to get hired leads us to be inauthentic in rapport building, and that can be just as detrimental to rapport building as anything you can do, as being negative or not caring about rapport or not knowing how to build rapport. So it's important that we are always authentic.
So we're also adding something like honesty, another word, mm-hmm. to the harmony and the conflict and the trust.
Well, trust, right. So that's a big reason why I prefer the words trust in rapport building and comfort. Because if someone's being inauthentic, For instance, you sit down at home and you're to a hot dinner and you're tired after a long day and the phone rings, right? It's a telemarketer. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, never. No.
Happens to me a lot. And of course, I'm nice to them because they share my vocation, so I'm obligated to be nice. But the answer is still, I'm eating dinner. But be that as it may, and they say, good evening, Mr. Silva. This is Brad Justice. How are you tonight? That's inauthentic because they don't know you, and you know that, and they can't care about how you really are, right? It's not like if I called you at home and I said, hey, how are you doing?
Exactly.
You would probably, we know each other well enough that you would really answer that question, but not a stranger, right? That's
Never.
inauthentic, and that's a horrible way to telemarket.
So there is a difference that you seem to be pointing out here between simple courtesy and rapport.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Expand on that.
Let me expand on that. And let's talk about it within the framework, if we can, of getting hired. Okay.
Okay, certainly.
So when I have a big interview set up, or I'm pursuing an opportunity to sell a lot of office furniture, okay, which is really getting hired. I'm a vendor, and a company, an organization is considering hiring my company. So it's really a similar process. I will typically go to their facilities and look around, chat with the receptionist. I want to gain a feel for their culture as best I can. Quite often, when I chat and I build rapport with a receptionist, he or she will allow me to take a little better look around the facility. If I can do that, I get to know that person a little bit, how long they've been there. I see pictures of children. I'm like a sponge sucking in every bit of data and information that I can, not to manipulate, to do one thing, and that's build comfort and trust between me and every person that I'm going to meet, especially with the person I'm going to interview with. Now, when I come back on interview day, I'm armed because I have a lot to talk about. Hey, I was out here Monday morning, I got to know Jennifer. She is really cool. Did you know that her brother plays professional baseball? And then we're going to have a conversation about that, and that conversation is going to lead to more common ground. When I enter their office or I interview a conference room where I'm going to interview, I'm constantly looking on the walls for degrees. Where did they go to college? What are their hobbies? Pictures of children. I have children too. I went to an interview late last year, and during the course of the interview, it was even towards the end of the interview, we learned that our children went to the same elementary school. They were in school together. Classrooms right next to each other. The person couldn't believe it. At first, she looked at me with disbelief that I maybe had made that up to build rapport and common ground. And I started spouting off when I do Daddy Watchdog Day and all these things. And I thought the lady was going to hug me at the end of the interview because there was so much that we shared. And we had so much fun talking about our children and all the good things that are going on in their school and expanding on that. So I'm collecting information, their body language if I'm in front of them, how they write their emails. Are they direct? I can read an email and tell you a little bit about that personality type. Are they a driver? Are they interested in saving time? Are they more expressive like I am? Okay? And that's going to temper how I communicate with them because they're going to feel comfortable and they're going to have rapport with someone that's most like them. We like people that are most like us.
And we like people that care enough to even pay attention to or go and get that information.
No question about it. I've actually had customers compliment me that over the years. That in fact, one of them looked at me, my best customer looked at me one day in a meeting, and a big decision was pending, and he said, you ought to ask Brad those questions because he knows more about this company than we do. And you know what? In some areas of the company, that was correct because it was more important to me. They just worked there.
So you're saying about taking this much further than just being about the job.
Oh, yes. Because
That's
not rapport building.
The job seems to be secondary in this process.
No question about it. That's a great point. No question about it. Think about not to cut you off, Hector, but our jobs are part of our lives. When I left a company I'd been at for 12 years and started my own, which was a competitive company to that one, I lost basically all of my friends. And after a couple months, when the phone wasn't ringing and I didn't have anybody to go to lunch with, and I had broken all that rapport by choice, and if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. That was what I needed to do in my life. I found out just what a central dominant force our work lives are and how important that they are. But really, when I say that, it's really the collection of all those relationships that I'm talking about, right? The job, the tasks that we do, we forget about. We finish the tasks. We wrap them up. We've got to finish the work, right? So we can move on. The company can get paid. We can get paid. We're constantly finishing tasks. Let's don't confuse that with relationships. The relationships we have with each other, the three of us, the relationships that we have with our prospective employers, with our employers, with our colleagues. I've had employees come in. I had one that was a dynamite employee about 7 or 8 years ago, and she just could not get along with her colleagues. Every time I'd come back to the office, it was helter-skelter. And it was little things that were causing it, but it was just a series. And we couldn't keep her because it was just, we couldn't get any work done. It's a little office of 12 people. And I had people coming to me and saying, I'm going to resign tomorrow if you don't do something. And I'd try to fix the problem, but you know what the problem was? She couldn't play well with her classmates. And
Was not a report.
I'm not a psychologist. Yeah, I don't know why she couldn't, but she couldn't.
It could be that she just didn't care enough about them.
Right. And so rapport was everything. And I've had other people, they're over there now, that maybe aren't the best at their job. Maybe I could find someone a little bit better, but everybody loves them. They're one of us. They're in our family, and they're not going anywhere. And you're the next person that you interview with, the next person that you email in your job search. Think about them that way. Think down the road that this is a person that I'm going to, in a platonic way, marry. They're looking at marrying me, and it's important that I be the husband or the wife that they really need me to be. As you just said, Hector, not the focus on the job. They'll always find someone to do the work. Computers can do a lot of the work that we used to do, right? Technology's changing that. What computers can't do, we can outsource to India and China, right? But the rapport building will never be automated.
It sounds to me like selfishness has no place in rapport, and you have to think of others before you think of yourself.
No doubt. No doubt. And that's nothing new, what you just said. Mm-hmm. We've been taught that since our first day of Sunday school, right?
Yeah, but do we listen?
Well, you know what? I think we did listen, most of us. And I think for a while we were doing okay, but we got the stresses of subprime mortgages, unemployment, rejection. The world is a hard, cold place. Believe me, I've been on straight commission for 29 years. I know all about the hardness of the world. And my employment reviews showed up in my inbox every month. And that's how I did. Even if I did my best. I had 4 months early in my career. It was in 1988. I had 4 months in a row where I owed the company money at the end of the month.
That's not a good thing.
That's worse than being unemployed.
How do you get past that?
You can't collect unemployment because I had a job.
How do you get past that?
That's a good question. I think for me, and this is a personal choice, a lot of prayer, knowing. Just a quick story. I stood on a football field last night. It was 41 degrees. I watched my 56-pound, 8-year-old son scrimmage in the mud, in the rain, freezing cold. His little hands are so tiny. Making tackles, getting hit, being hit, hitting, stripping the ball. And I stood there and watched and collected him when it was over, and we went home. And then I had the blessing to take him to school this morning. And I looked over there and he was all dry and rested and looked fine, no bruises, no permanent injuries. And I looked up at the sky, not a cloud in the sky. It's going to be 51 today. And I thought, that's a good metaphor for what a lot of people are going through and what I went through in those 4 months I'm not trying to candy coat being unemployed or what it felt like to owe my employer money after working 60-hour work weeks for 4 months. But I can tell you this, the sun will come up in your job search.
Yeah, and one of the problems that happens, and it's only human nature, after you've been unemployed for a year, 2 years in some cases, we start to get down on ourselves. And we forget that we're not in this alone. We go through life with others that are there to talk to help us, and to get through those bad times.
Yeah.
We can't do it alone.
Right.
So that's, again, where rapport comes in, being able to have the rapport with those people that they can be honest with you, or you can be honest with them, and you can talk about things, and you can get to look at the still positive things that are out there in your life, and not just dwell on that huge negative.
It's a great point. And I'll give you another example of what you're saying. Get your head around this. In my furniture career, I've sold other things too in my career, but in my furniture career, I've sold personally between $70 and $80 million worth of office furniture. Okay, been very fortunate. By my own estimations, I've lost at least that much. On a number of those occasions, I did a masterful job of building rapport. And on a handful, so well, I built my rapport. My prospective client said, Brad, I'm sorry, I've got bad news for you. We're not going to be able to give you this project. But I do want to give your name to our sister company. And we felt so comfortable with you and trust you that we wanted to find some way to work with you. I've also gotten some of my best referrals in my career, and I can't use his name or his company name, but one of the biggest banks in the state of Missouri never spent a dime with me, but has given me some of the best referrals I've ever had in my career. And we go to lunch once in a while, of course on my nickel, and we enjoy each other so much, and we laugh about it. We'll run into people and he'll introduce me, and he stutters because he doesn't even know how to introduce me. He looked at me last time in his office and said, Brad, how do we know each other? And we have one thing. We only have one thing, the two of us. We have rapport. And that's okay. As you just said so well, that's enough. Our relationships are enough. It doesn't seem like it when it's cold and rainy and we're broke and there seems to be no hope, but we do have each other, and as long as we have that, we're going to be okay. The sun is going to come up.
Where do we go to learn how to build this rapport?
Well, you can go to my book and read my book. And
Okay.
would you like me to give the address again?
Yes.
Please do.
I'd like to offer a free PDF download copy at a microsite I built of my book, The Art of Getting Hired. If you'll grab a pen, if you're interested, that website address is www.theartofgettinghired.com/thank-u.php. I'll repeat that, www.theartofgettinghhired.com/thank-you.php. It'll take you 20 seconds to download a PDF copy. I give, there's 12 chapters in the book. I give 12 ways to build rapport, from reading body language, how to write emails in a way that will that are conducive to building rapport, different personality types, very important. The way that I build rapport with Hector is different than the way that I build rapport with you. And it's my job, if I want to be hired, to understand the personality types, be able to read them and then be a chameleon and change into that color without being inauthentic.
12 chapters, that's a lot to read, but yet I bet that every one of those chapters is going to bring something that takes you a step closer to being a good person for building rapport.
I hope so, Hector. And I think when you read a book like that, a how-to book, at least for me, you're not going to take the whole thing and apply every single thing. You're looking for, when I open a book like that, honestly, I'm looking for a couple things that I can use and be better at my craft. And I think that's the way you have to look at this book. But hopefully people will be blessed in their job search with something they find in there.
And it might be some things that they're already doing, but it's always good to be vindicated in what you do.
Absolutely. It can actually, that can be more beneficial because it builds our confidence, our self-esteem, and healthy self-esteem and confidence is very attractive and very helpful in rapport building.
Well, we want to thank you once again for being here with us.
My pleasure.
I know that I feel that the rapport that we have, at least at this table, is something that I treasure. And we don't want this to stop, so we're going to do this again and again.
Look forward to it.
We do want to make sure that we cover some other subjects that are part of your book or part of your experience.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Also, remember that all of our job chats are available to you anytime on our website. That's newlandingsjobchat.org. And you simply click on the Past Chats button.
And as always, we want to thank you for listening, and may your days be full of health, happiness, and success.